Oh, hello. Welcome to my presentation on l'arrivée d'une train est à la Ciotat, or as it's known in English, the arrival of the train at La Ciotat, a projected motion picture by the Lumiere brothers. The idea of projecting images was nothing new. The magic lantern, believed to have originated in the early 17th century by the Dutch savant Huygens, combined light, painted glass slides, and lenses to project static images onto walls and screens. They later became more sophisticated by moving one piece of glass over another. Edward Muybridge, in 1879, under the sponsorship of Leland Stanford, managed to capture the motion of a galloping horse using cameras of his own invention. Muybridge realized that when these images were shown in quick succession, it created the illusion of movement, and so he invented the zoopraxiscope, which projected images from a rotating glass disc. This concept set inventors to work at a galloping pace. By the late 19th century, just about every Tom, Dick and Harry were putting their brilliant minds to creating a more realized moving image. It was Thomas Edison's assistant, Laurie Dixon, using George Eastman's Kodak film, who was able to create the very first movie, Monkey Shines. This and other films created by Edison and his assistants were first shown in New York City on April 14, 1894. One person at a time, while looking through a viewer at the top of an upright box, would crank a handle on the side. In doing so, they were able to witness about 20 seconds of footage. This device was known as the kinetoscope. Impressed by Edison's invention and the spectacle of the magic lantern, in 1895, Louis and Auguste Lumiere created the hand-cranked camera and projector, the cinématographe. In December that year, selling only 33 tickets in the basement of the Grand Café in Paris, the Lumiere brothers showed for the first time to a paying public 10 different short films running about 50 seconds each. For many historians, it's at this point that cinema history begins. With the projection shows being a hit, the Lumiere brothers continued to create new motion pictures to wow their audience. There was no film that did this better than The Arrival of the Train at La Ciotat. A myth has grown around this short film that audiences had run out of the room screaming in terror that the train was going to run them over. Let's debunk this myth by looking at a few facts. Firstly, the double-blade projector was quite loud, so in a room that only seats 100 people, this would have somewhat broken the illusion of reality. Thanks to Ludwig Stolwerk, who, in March 1896, visited the Grand Café's basement, he reports that the stairs are rather steep and unpleasant. If this is true, along with the fact that there were no newspaper or police reports claiming that people were rushing out or injured, we can say with relative confidence that this was most likely an exaggeration of the truth. Hysterical terror may not have been true, but reports seem to corroborate that people were genuinely nervous or scared. So fear was the reaction of the audience. What made this film so different? Up until this point, motion pictures were seen on a relatively flat plane, with no real challenge or use of depth. Bertrand Tavernier, the French filmmaker and director of the Institut Lumière in Lyon, France, goes so far as to say that the film was the first horror movie. The use of diagonal creates a striking and modern composition, which attests to Louis Lumiere's experience with photography, and that the brothers were not just inventors, but filmmakers. Though it may not have inspired hysteria and panic, the fear created testifies to the camera's power of suggestion. With the ability to combine audiences' fantasy and reality, it's no wonder that the moving image became the juggernaut it is today. Edison in his Black Maria film studio and other Americans generally focused on creating fictional, narrative-driven films, while French cinema was more interested in creating or recreating everyday life, known as actualities. Though The Arrival of the Train at La Ciotat is marveled as one of the first documentaries, this short film is actually staged. We can deduce this through almost no one gawping at Louis Lumiere and his camera. In an interview with Georges Sardou, Louis Lumiere explicitly mentions his mother's tartan Perline. This claim is made even more believable due to the Lumiere family owning a country estate nearby to La Ciotat, giving all the family easy access to the station. Directing his wife, mother, brother-in-law, and other family members, Louis created the fictional candid moment. This fiction is made more intriguing by the actions of the group of women in the last 8 seconds of the film. It seems very odd for the group to walk toward the front of the train, out of the frame, and then frantically rush back into the frame and open two car doors as if looking for someone they had expected to be on the train. There are two schools of thought regarding these actions. The first, that this was an unplanned mishap. The women are opening the compartment doors genuinely in search for the passengers they expected to be seated closer to the engine of the train. Due to the camera capturing this moment, it is truly, at least partly, a documentary. The second interpretation is that it was all conceived by Louis Lumière, that the back and forth creates action and more drama in the shot, thereby reinforcing Bertrand Tavernier's praise that the Lumière brothers are not just inventors, but filmmakers. Let me know your thoughts in the forum below. Was this frantic search staged or genuine? Whether the actions were staged or not, the use of diagonals and depth to focus the viewer's attention on one single point, which then grew bigger and apparently closer to the audience, made the arrival of the train at La Ciotat a film the audience would never forget. I've been Thomas Amann. Good night.